what I'd like us to do is a quick visualization. Just please indulge me for a moment. So it's always easier sometimes, well, it's not necessarily easier, but if you close your eyes, you don't have to, but if you do close your eyes, I'd like you to envision that you have a seed, okay? A small seed. And the seed that you have, you're dropping the seed into the ground of your consciousness. You can see it as a little bit of light, okay, very, very small. And the seed that you're putting in to your mind is nonviolence, okay? It's a seed of nonviolence, and you're watering it. And you water this seed with your thoughts, with the words that you speak, and with your actions. Okay, now you may open your eyes. So now, remember this little seed that you had, and as you watered it, what you watered it with is everything that you're thinking is helping that seed to grow. Everything that you're saying helps that seed to grow. Let's go ahead and turn to Matthew 5 really quickly. And so in Matthew 5, we're looking at verse 21, okay, and my subtitle says, Murder Begins in the Heart. So, you have heard that it was said to our ancestors, do not murder, and whoever murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you, and remember, we talk about often that Yeshua came to magnify. You know, he wasn't doing away with things, he was actually magnifying and showing us not just the physical, but the spiritual intent behind. So he says, but I tell you, everyone who is angry with his brother or with his neighbor will be subject to judgment. So whoever is angry, somebody doesn't even necessarily have to know that you're angry with them, okay? You can be angry with a person and just hold it in. I think it's also in this passage somewhere here that, right, a little bit further on, and we can look at it quickly, verse 27, where it talks about adultery in the heart. And we're not focusing adultery today, but again, we're talking about the thoughts and the meditations that we have. So 27 says, you have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you, everyone who looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So again, it's something that we don't necessarily have to do the action, but it's a thought. So if we are thinking harmful thoughts, we might never go out and punch somebody in the head or trip them or throw stones at them. We don't even have to do that. But thoughts are vibrations. It's energy. If we're even thinking harmful thoughts to other people, it might even be harmful thoughts to ourselves, we are generating, or we are sending out a wave. We're sending out a current of electricity. We are impacting the environment around us. It might not be something that we see with the physical eye, but it is something that does have an impact. I mean, everybody can probably testify to the fact that maybe you've walked into an area and there's just this heavy energy or an angry energy. Nobody may be saying anything, but you just feel it. We impact it with our very thoughts, and not only do we impact the ether around us, but with every angry or violent, harmful thought that we generate, we are actually now storing upon our soul certain impressions. And those impressions are something that at some point in our journey we're going to have to balance, we're going to have to cleanse. So we want to be careful, very careful for the thoughts that we have. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to Proverbs 10. And we're going to Proverbs 10, verse 19. You know, words hold power, and that's something that, they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, words aren't going to necessarily physically hurt, but words do have power. They do affect an individual. Okay, so in Proverbs 10, verse 19, it says, when there are many words, sin is unavoidable, but the one who controls their lips is wise. So here when we're thinking about the context of being harmless and not causing any violence or anything like that, think about the words that we speak. Okay, so we talked about the thoughts. We know if something is just generating in the heart, that has an impact. Well, words too. Now, words that have intention behind them, of course, that's going to have a more powerful impact. But words that are spoken, even if they're careless, that has an impact too. Think about how many times maybe you've said something and your intention wasn't to be harmful, your intention wasn't to be whatever, but maybe the way the person took it because of the words that were spoken. So when we choose the words that we say, we want to be mindful not to just carelessly throw things about, but realize that in those words that we speak, it's like we're casting spells. It's like, again, I know intention has a very strong part in it, but you may say something and the person grabs it a particular way, and then later on it's like, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, but that's what was said. So again, in our day-to-day dealings with others, what we're thinking, because it starts in the heart, and what we're speaking is something that we want to be really careful that we are not producing anything that is bringing forth violence. For our last scripture, let's just go ahead and turn to 1 Corinthians really quickly. 1 Corinthians 13. I do believe in the axiom that what you reap, you sow. And so if we are putting into the fabric of consciousness, the collective consciousness, words of aggression, words of harm, things that are just irritating, agitating, non-profitable, if we are putting that out there, consider what it is that we are going to reap later on. Consider what our soul is then going to have to try to balance or to make right. So 1 Corinthians, and we know this to be the love chapter, verse 13. And notice it starts off, we're just going to start with verse 1. It says, if I speak the languages of men and of angels, but do not have love, I am a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so that I can move mountains. These are not little things. This is not trivial stuff we're talking about, okay? But do not have love, I am nothing. If I donate all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Then it goes into what love is. Notice it talks about love is patient, love is kind. Love does not envy. It is not boastful. It is not conceited. It does not act improperly. So in this passage, and you can continue reading it, we're not going to go through the whole thing here, but if you notice, love does no harm. Okay, love is not, well, this person bothered me, I'm going to punch him in the head, or I'm going to, trip him, or I'm going to think these evil thoughts. That is not what love is. I think everybody in here, and anybody who studied a little bit, knows that the greatest power is truly love. So in our day-to-day actions with other people, and I would dare say with ourselves as well, because sometimes that aggression or that harmful attitude is intrinsic. It's towards ourselves, oh, well, I didn't do this, or I'm this, or I'm that, and just kind of beating ourselves up. Well, we missed the mark there too. We missed the point. So love does no harm. And in the things that we think, knowing that every thought has energy, it goes out there, but it also affects our internal environment with the words that we say and with our actions. If with those three things we can bring them in line, we can integrate them and have a principle of non-harming, then we can actually be a very instrumental tool to helping bring about love into our environment and into the world.